Alright, and now I say hello and welcome back to another episode of TENSHI. Yeah, I would say we continue rather fast because there's still lots of stuff going on. And then let's continue. You wanted to see me, Michelle? Yes, Kenji, I wanted to ask you if you were feeling alright after all going through a time window. Isn't necessarily a safe thing to do when untested. I feel fine, actually. You haven't tested on many subjects before? Most subjects we tested in the time window early stages, regardless of gender, tended not to survive for long after their trip. Oh. Worry not, Kenji. They showed many signs of health decline immediately upon their return. I'm not one to trust with these matters anyhow. Kyo is the medical expert of the facility. I just work with the technology. About that, how long did it actually take you to create a time window device? And how does it actually work? Explaining the time window isn't a necessarily simple thing to do. In fact, it's near impossible to do in layman's terms, so let me think for a moment. She sat back in her chair, her legs crossed, tapping her foot against the ground, and thought. I merely stood there watching her, letting her think. It was only a while later that I realized that I was staring at her legs as they tapped, and she seemed to take notice midway through her thoughts. Like what you see, Kenji? What? Oh man, sorry, I'm sorry, Michelle. Oh, don't play coy with me here, Kenji. Don't think I haven't noticed you getting all cozy with the other girls while I am toiling away here in the lab. You're a bit green for me. I wouldn't say you're completely out of your league. You're completely out of your league? I wouldn't say you're completely out of my league. That's would be correctly, but we haven't criticized the grammatics yet. We won't do it either here, so we just continue reading, and what stands there is correct. Michelle, what are you saying? You are one of the most dense guys I have ever had the pleasure of speaking to. You're in a lab with 3 hot girls who have basically been throwing themselves at you, and you still haven't gotten any action? Just how dumb are you? Hey, look, Michelle, just 'cause I'm a guy doesn't mean... Yeah, save me that. Man doesn't just think with his crotch lecture. If you switched out any other guy in your position, regardless of how nerdy they were, they would have seen some sort of action by now. So she stopped walking slowly and seductive towards me, adjusting her top and fidgeting with her belt. I am throwing an opportunity in your lap right now, Kenji, and it's up to you to take it. So, Michelle, I'm a guy. It's obvious that in any other circumstance I wouldn't hesitate for a second. But we're in a lab, my grandfather's lab, with 2 other girls around. My parents died 3 days ago and I am not exactly in the best place mentally. Also, I barely have any idea who you are aside from the fact that your dress is incredibly a risk for your type of work. Judgmental little sap, aren't we? Look, it's just before I could finish my sentence, Michelle swiftly pulled out a cane from behind her and tripped up my legs, causing me to fall to the ground. Now we are talking. Once there, she sat on top of me, straddling me by the abdomen. Michelle, what are you? I've been working so hard down here, Kenji. I think I deserve some fun and downtime just like the other two girls. So try me. Her face lowered, getting close to mine. Her chest pushed against mine, her cleavage pouring into my vision. It's not like that at all. I shuffled from side to side in protest. Michelle just looked over at me, stunned for a second. Then she burst out laughing. After she collected herself, she addressed me. You're so heroic, you know that, Mr. Gentleman. What do you think that will get me to like you more now? Michelle, you don't get it. Not all guys are sex-hungry maniacs, okay? I'm not trying to be some holier-than-you type A personality. This is just who I am. I'm treating you like people. Why is that a bad thing? For a while she was silent. Then she smirked, letting out a soft chuckle. It isn't Kenji. In fact, that's what I wanted to hear. Such a big man for such a young one at that. Sorry, I doubted you. So, what, you're just testing me or something? I guess you could say that. A lot of guys like to put on this excuse of honor and respect, but don't mean a word of it. I'm happy to see that you actually do, even in the midst of a woman literally throwing herself at you. I'm sure most guys would roll their eyes and hate you for acting in such a way, but as a woman, I respect that. She stood, brushing herself off. Now then, the girls are going back to a trip today. Since you seem to be okay, would you like to join them? Do you think it's safe? I mean, it could have just been a fluke or something. Oh, come on now. Kenji, hey, don't try to butter me up with this manly man nonsense. Just to wuss out on me now. Do you want it or do you want in or not? Do you want in or not? I'm sure both of the girls would love you to join them. Sure, I guess. If you're looking out for us, I mean. Of course, Kenji, I always am. She smiled. One of the warmest smiles I had seen from her, reassuring me of my decision. She dismissed me, telling me to get ready, and returned to my room to rest for a bit. Before I could relax for too long, however, I heard a knock at my door. I stood and walked over, seeing Rose at the entrance. Hey. Oh, Rose, how are you? You're doing okay? I'm fine. Just wanted to apologize for freaking out earlier. What? No. You had a perfectly valid reason to be worrying, Rose. I mean, the effects of the time window really don't seem to be a joke. You aren't nervous either? Michelle told me that you were coming on the next trip through with us. You're not fearful of what may happen? Well, I'd be lying if I said I wasn't a bit nervous. But she had a point. Nothing happened when I went through the first time. Both you and Q seem to have consistent results. So I guess it doesn't affect male subject in the same way. Or at least guys my age maybe. Hehe. You're starting to sound like Michelle, over-analyzing everything. Oh, yeah, I was just talking with her about some things for a bit. Really? Like what? Oh, you know, science stuff. Like, bodily effects from the time window, that kind of stuff. Ah, right, that's a smart thing to talk about, I suppose. We stood there for a moment in silence because I finally spoke up. Did you want to come inside and talk for a bit before the next trip? Oh yes, of course, I'd be delighted. I went over to my bed and sat on the side, and to my surprise she sat next to me, rather than at a chair. She seemed to take notice of that thought through my nervous shuffle in place. Oop, I'm sorry, am I sitting too close? What? No, you're fine. I don't mind it at all. Oh good, I'm glad. She beamed yet another smile at me. I had never noticed how dazzling her smile was until I saw it a bit more close. I cleared my throat. So, anything on your mind lately? Well, there was something I wanted to bring up from our last conversation. I just wasn't sure how comfortable you would be with it, with the subject. But since you seem to be a bit relaxed even after that episode in the kitchen, I suppose it's fine to talk about. Yeah, go for it, shoot. Well, what are your thoughts on breasts of larger size? Yeah, that's kind of question, huh? We both looked at each other, then away. Rose fiddling with her fingers in her lap as I thought carefully about my answer. If I'm being truthful, larger ones are nice, and if they fit a girl, they look good too. You think so? Of course. Are you ashamed of your body or something? Well, at times I wonder if they have gotten a tad too big over the years. It's embarrassing to think of myself as a scientist with these big melons? Huh? Haha, chill out, I'm joking. They look good on you, I promise. Boobs aren't everything, Rose, so don't stress about it. Yes, I suppose, as cliched and cheesy as it may be, I suppose so. I learned back in high school that just because something's cliche, that doesn't mean it's nearly necessarily a bad thing. Things become cliche for a reason. They get repeated so many times because they make sense. Sometimes they're even obvious. So when I say, Rose, I think your breasts, while they may be large, look nice, I mean it. I think you would also be beautiful if you were flat as a board. Honestly, I do. While I said all this, I had been looking down at my hands, just rambling. When I finally finished what I had to say, I looked up at Rose. She was staring at me intently. A deep blush on her face, her body was close. I could feel the heat radiating off her. When I realized what I had said, I blinked and looked away again. You really feel it way, Kenji? I don't see how anyone couldn't, Rose. I don't see how you couldn't see yourself as beautiful. Rose, are you okay? Let's just say that intelligence doesn't always equate to beauty. Well, that's just nonsense then. I think brains are incredibly attractive in a girl. I mean, seriously, I think that it's important for most people to have some sort of intelligence. Well, you're just starting the obvious at this point, Kenji. I honestly lost track of what I was saying. You were telling me how beautiful I was. I didn't think you as a vain person, Rose. Shut up. She shoved me, which I wasn't expecting. I fell over laughing. Rose giggling next to me. I slowly got back up on the bed, sitting next to her. We both just sat there and laughed, enjoying each other's company. Then we became silent, just looking at each other. Rose turned on the bed, facing me, her face that of solemn interest, I'd say even desire. She got closer to me, and I went with it, our faces slowly getting closer until... Alright, Kenji, Rose, I need you both on the... I stumbled back at my grandfather's intrusion, collapsing off the bed and onto the floor. Tensai, there's such a thing as knocking, you know? My apologies, but we do have some matters to attend to that are quite important. Feel free to pick this up when you get back. Tensai, please. With that, Rose charged out of my room, past Tensai and into her room, likely getting ready for the next trip. I slowly looked up at him, a fallen look on his face. Sorry about that. It's fine, didn't really know where I was going with that anyways. I don't think I believe you, Kenji. I don't think you do either, but anyway, feel free to come out to the lab anytime you're ready. With that, he exited, leaving me to lay there in embarrassment, but also with a real sense of glee swelling inside of me. It was the first time that week when something occurred that actually seemed to take my mind off all of the things that had happened to me lately. And it felt good. Alright, then we are back in the lab, and how it will continue in the lab you will find out in our next episode. So if you enjoyed it, just leave a thumbs up, leave a commentary, give me some feedback, and if you don't want to miss any of the action or any of the episodes, subscribe to my channel, and then I'll see you tomorrow by your pacemaker.